Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream, and I'm going to do your January the 30th just for today in a meditation. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Let's get into the meditation. I hope you're having a beautiful morning. It is entitled Giving It Away. We must give freely and gratefully that which has been freely and gratefully given to us. That is taken from the basic text, page 49. In recovery, we receive many gifts. Perhaps one of the greatest of these gifts is the spiritual awakening that begins when we stop using. Growing stronger each day, we apply the steps in our lives. The new spark of life within is a direct result of our new relationship with a higher power, a relationship initiated and developed by living the 12 steps. Slowly, as we pursue our program, the radiance of recovery dispels the darkness of our disease. One of the ways we express our gratitude for the gifts of recovery is to help others find what we found. We can do this in any number of ways. By sharing in meetings, making 12-step calls, accepting a commitment to sponsorship, or volunteering for H&I or phone line duty. The spiritual life given to us in recovery asks for expression, for we can only keep what we have by giving it away. Just for today, the gift of recovery grows when I share it. I will find someone with whom to share it. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. I like this. It stirs up so many different thoughts within me. It's hard to pinpoint which direction I think I want to go. However, when I read the quote, we must give freely and gratefully that which has been freely and gratefully given to us. Yesterday, I was talking about the law of reciprocity, the putting something in and expecting to get something back, equivalent or representative of the effort that you put in. So if I put in an apple seed, a delicious apple seed, I will not get Granny Smith apples, right? What I sow is what I'm going to also reap. What I put in is what I will get. Some people call it the karma, law of karma. I call it the law of reciprocity. What you sow, you reap. Okay. So when I look at this and I read it, the first thought that comes to mind, because our nature, our human nature is to be analytical and judgmental. So when I read this, I say, okay, we must give freely and gratefully that which has been freely and gratefully given to us. Now, most people, when they give something to someone, it's because they can, first of all. They don't generally give something that they can't give. They may not be able to afford to give it, but they give it because they want to, basically. And generally speaking, beyond that, people are not thinking, I'm freely and gratefully giving something. They're doing it out of their heart and their energy. It's generally positive. It's almost a given, right? A gift that is given is usually given with this spirit of generosity, right? Giving freely and a spirit of gratefulness for what they have so that they can afford or be in a position to help another person. So when I read that, I also think the opposite of true. I am not responsible to freely and gratefully give away what has not freely and gratefully been given to me, right? So there are people that do things and their motives are not pure. Their motives are not right. It may benefit you, but you find out later that they were expecting you to do something to honor the fact that they did it for you. You find out that there was a selfish motive. They're expecting you to sleep with them. They're expecting you to, uh, they gave you $20 one day and now they expect you to run them around every weekend of the year and never ask for gas money. You find out that the giving was not pure, right? I don't have a responsibility to duplicate that. See where I'm going with this? I don't have a responsibility to duplicate that ill will, not that goodwill. That I want to duplicate, but that ill will. I don't have a responsibility to duplicate that, nor should I. However, because we live in this mentality of dog eat dog world, right? We tend to mimic what we see. So here's an example. I'm going to do some service work. And while I'm doing the service work or getting ready or prepping to do the service work, I'm complaining about how much of a burden service work is. And then I even get to the service work and I complain within the service work that somebody else can do the readings, someone else can make the coffee, or it'd be nice to have a little help here. I get so angry within doing the service work that it takes away from the atmosphere of recovery, and the disposition of freely and gratefully giving is not even there. I reached a point with this particular meeting that I was hour after hour after hour, and this is when the pandemic started. There were only a group of us, about 8 people, that was doing the 24/7 meeting. And we would literally be on the meeting for 6 to 8 hours at a time, sometimes, because all of us had lives. And so you would get on the meeting and relieve a person, not really knowing what time you were going to finish. And before I knew it, I was bitter, I was angry. I was still doing the meetings and I wasn't complaining on the meetings, but my attitude throughout life, everything else around that particular service position that I had was falling apart. And I was angry all the time. I'd get on the screen and be joyful and I'd go through it. And I kept a proper disposition doing the service work. But the after, I mean, even before, oh, here I got to get on the meeting again. So and so needs to do such and such. And how long will I be on this time? I hope I can get off after 2 hours, and it'd be 4 hours. And before you know it, you're wanting to cry because it's hour after hour. So much sacrifice, personal sacrifice was going in. Eventually, I was just like, it seems like to me, this may not be the will of God, because this is a lot on just a few people. But we were impacting the world. People from all over the world were waking up and needing a meeting, trying not to use drugs, trying not to end their life or end the life of other people. They were burning desires that were just amazing. People were going crazy within their own homes because of the pandemic, and this was a place where they could commune with other addicts. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I do not need to do service if I cannot do service with a spirit of goodwill. I need to do service, and I need to do it freely and gratefully, give it away, so that others, when they look at that example of selflessness, in service. They say, I want to do that. And before you know it, you have people lining up to carry the torch and keep the light on for someone else. That's where I'm at with this, is that just because so-and-so has a stinky attitude about the service they're doing, maybe someone needs to put a bug in their ear and tell them it might be time for you to step away from that because you're affecting the atmosphere of the meeting. If you're that tired, and we can all tell it, maybe it's time for someone else to step up. And maybe no one else is going to step up until you make an announcement saying you're stepping down. That's what happens in my mind when I read that, is that service work, freely and gratefully giving away what we have been given, freely and gratefully, is the law of reciprocity. But what happens when it's not freely and gratefully given? It can affect the attitude of other people. Now, I can't control other people, mind you. I'm powerless over people, places, and things. However, just for today, when I do service work and I show up to do it, I try to bring my best grateful self, because it didn't have to be that way. And I do have power and control over how I act and how I respond. So today, I want for you to walk away with it on your mind. Am I one of those people that when others think about me and service work or my impact or my relationship to the fellowship, they think this is a person that is freely and gratefully giving back what was freely and gratefully given to them? Or do they think, oh my goodness, they're burnt out. They need to step aside, let someone else carry that. And if that's the case, find some time for yourself to do some self-care. And if it doesn't improve, if the resentment of doing the level of service work is still there when you're doing it, after you have taken some time to do some self-care, some time to commune with your sponsor about what's going on, some time to have someone else step in, your co-chair or whoever your assistant is supposed to be, hopefully you have one. After you've had some time to do some self-care, then go back to it. And if you are still exhausted within it and it shows, step aside. Step aside, because you're doing more harm than good in the spiritual realm, right? See, that last sentence there says the spiritual life given to us in recovery asks for expression, where we can only keep what we have by giving it away. Our spiritual life. Our spiritual life. So if the spirituality of what you're doing is somehow skewed with negativity, resentment, anger, hostility, it's time to step aside. And I want you to think about that. That is not showing a weakness, it's actually showing a strength when you're recognizing where you're at with something. Some of you out there have been carrying the weight for certain meetings for years. And you have very few people that will step in. You have few people that you can even call and say, I am sick. Can you do this service? See, I'm involved with a 24/7 meeting. I only do 1 hour a week now. I don't do service 3 days a week. And I don't replace anyone like I used to. I used to be on call. So when someone needed a break, I would just step in. And I realized that my life, my personal life again, was starting to suffer. And I do a meeting with some other recovering individuals from across the nation and locally on Monday. And we have a beautiful support system. So I want for you to be thinking about that. My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you. I want you to have a beautiful day on purpose. I intend to. Talk to you soon.